Shalom, everyone, and we are today in Parashat Noah. This is in Genesis chapter 6, verse 9. Parashat Noah, the second parasha in the Torah. Ele toldot Noah. These are the generations of Noah, means also the offsprings, the result, the fruits of Noah. Noah, איש צדיק תמים היה בדורותיו. Noah was a tzaddik. In English, righteous man. Although tzaddik and righteous are not equal, Hebrew and English, we're talking about tzaddik. We'll see what does it mean. So here we have the famous, very famous story about Noah, who was a very special righteous man, different from everybody else on the planet at that time. He had three sons. That's the next verse, verse 10. And he had three sons, Shem, Ham, and Yefet. Later on, the whole humanity came out of these three. Vatishachet, verse 11, Vatishachet haaretz lifnei Elohim, and the earth has been corrupted in front of the God. And the earth has been fulfilled with Hamas. Hamas means dishonesty, robbery, and other human activity that is really not fit. Vayar Elohim et haaretz v'nei nishchata, and God saw that the earth has been nishchata, corrupt. Another word that repeats itself. Again, we have it in verse 11, in verse 12, two times, because every flesh has corrupted its ways. The word is leshachet, leashchit, leshachet, corruption. But it has other meanings. Vayomer Elohim leNoach, ketz kol basar ba lefanai. Verse 13, and God says to Noach, the end of all flesh has come in front of me, ki mal'a haaretz Hamas, because the earth is full of Hamas, because of them. V'neni mashchitam, the two words Hamas and corruption come again. Okay, and then there is the order that God is giving to Noah, make yourself an ark. Okay, he gives the dimensions of the ark. The 300 cubits, the length, 50 width, and 30 height. A cubit is amma. Amma is something like 50 centimeters of today. Okay, that's big enough to bring in giraffes and lions, a whole, if you try to put so many animals in such a small place, you go to jail today, because that will be abuse of the animals and the humans living there. Okay, and then comes the flood. So here's the story of the flood and the survival of Noah and his people. And after a whole length of that flood that lasted, the water covered the earth for something like a year. Okay. We see that on Noah chapter 8, verse 5, והמים היה הולך וחסור, the water started to diminish, עד החודש העשירי, בעשירי till the 10th month, בעשירי באחד לחודש נראו ראשי הערים. On the 10th month, the first day, the tops of the mountains have been seen. Okay, so we're talking about a long flood, and then a story with the dove, Noah sending the dove to bring the branch of olive, the symbol of peace, and then the covenant again with the covenant that God made with Noah and his children, us, with the rainbow. That's on chapter 9, verse 12, verse 13, verse 14, and that's a covenant. The humanity is not going to be destroyed anymore. Okay, and again, the children of Noah, Shem, Ham, and Yefet, and they were the fathers of humanity. Okay, then Noah gets drunk. He was righteous. Now he gets drunk. That's Genesis 9, verse 21. Okay, and then about the different nations that came out of the children of Noah, which are the fathers of humanity. And then the story ends with the story with the Tower of Babylon. That is chapter 11. ויהי כל הארץ שפה אחת ודברים אחדים. And the whole earth in the beginning were one language and one speech. And then they found a deep place in the land of Shinar, settled over there, and then they built the tower, the city and the tower, okay? And that's what the Tower of Babylon, and we'll see if we have time, we'll go into it. Okay, now the question is like this. What's in it for us? Why is that so important to read this parasha right now? Now, the answer is very simple. Parashat Noah is usually being read always after the holidays. It's kind of the beginning of the coming year. And during Shabbat Bereshit, usually you have the blessing of the new moon of Cheshvan. The month of Cheshvan, Scorpio, starts usually during Parashat Noah. And that is something very important. Why the year is starting with Scorpio. Scorpio, the month of Scorpio, has been created by, according to Sefer Yetzirah, Avraham Avinu, Abraham the patriarch, by the letter Nun, and the letter Nun is about falling. And it says in Proverbs by King Solomon, Sheva yipol tzadik vekam. A righteous man, tzaddik, here we use this word the first time about Noah, tzaddik, will fall 7 times, he will get up. The word fall and tzaddik go together, which means most of the world, they think that a tzaddik, a righteous man, is a person that has no faults and he is perfect. And therefore, he never makes mistakes, which means if somebody makes a mistake, he cannot be a tzaddik, so he belongs to the other category, which means he's evil. And therefore, the moment we found a fault, a mistake within another person, he must be part of the evil people. Okay? That's very, very superficial. That's very medieval. That's very not Jewish. Okay? Why? We have to remember, when we read Parashat Bereshit, we spoke about the fall of Adam, and since that moment, this world is not perfect, and we cannot find perfection among living beings. Noah is one of them. Noah, and later on, all the other people that the Tanakh is mentioning. Let's start with Noah, and then we'll go to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, and then we can go later on with Moses and Aaron and King David and the other, a lot of very, very special people that laid the foundation of what should be the perfect life of a perfect human being. Neither of these people in what is being called the Jewish Bible was perfect. Nobody was perfect. Okay? Now, why is that very important? This is so important because there is kind of a perception that people are looking for perfection, either in a spouse, a friend, a leader, a working place, reality. People are looking for the perfect reality. And the last centuries, after religion lost its grip over modern society, we're talking about the Western world, the free world. Why is it free? Because people became free of religion. Religion during the Middle Ages, not by mistake, it was called the Dark Ages. Religion was saying, the perfect person is the only person that is worthwhile. All the others, they're filth, which means you, and you, all of you guys. Okay? So you don't have any worth, you don't have any right for happiness because you are not perfect. Which is, again, it's a terrible perception, because that gives the excuse to abuse people because they're not perfect. Okay? And here we come. So there's no religion. So what happens in the 19th century? Come all of those replacement of religion. Communism, socialism, humanism. It came a little bit earlier. All of them were trying to create a religion that replaces the Dark Ages religion. And what does it mean? Everybody is looking for the perfect humanity, the perfect society, the perfect government. What? The moment you're looking for that perfect, you're coming to the same results. Abuse. Why? Because there's no perfect being. There's no perfect human being alive. And there will never be. Till the Messianic days, that, it's not now, so forget about it. Why are we saying it? Because the moment you identify somebody that he has some imperfection, then it justifies abuse. Look at what communism did, what Nazism did, socialism did. Everybody did not fit the rules of perfection. It's the same. It's the whole corruption of hypocrisy. There are some people who are perfect, and they are allowed to do everything. They're allowed to abuse. They're allowed to destroy people's lives in the name of the greater good. What's the difference? Well, when the moment we realize that nobody is perfect and everybody is committed for perfecting himself, then you have no excuse whatsoever, by no means, by no justification, to abuse anybody's rights for happiness. Okay? And that is the most important rule of society. Now Parashat Noah is bringing us another layer. And what is this layer? Because of that. Why is it important? Because people have no patience. And what does it mean they have no patience? Everybody wants the Mashiach now. What does it mean? Practically, everybody wants to live a lifestyle in which they will be safe. Some people think if I make a lot of money, I'll be safe, my life will be secured. Okay, is that correct? Everybody who has a lot of money is secured. His life will be safe from any pain and any bad news and stuff like this. No, this is foolishness to think like this. What about creating the perfect government, the perfect way of, then people, we have raised a whole new generation that is expecting a life that is full of perfection, and if there's some inconveniency, then you blame your government, you blame the police, you blame, you find already somebody to blame, because you think that you deserve to create, that somebody will create a safe zone around you, that you will be totally safe from any kind of inconveniency. And the moment you have inconveniency, then you are a victim and the whole world is to blame. I have some bad news for you. It doesn't work this way. It will never work this way. So Parashat Noah, as we say, Sheva Yipol Tzadik Vekam, a tzaddik is not a person that never experiences inconveniency. A tzaddik is never a person that never makes mistakes. A tzaddik is a person that makes mistakes, that falls, that find himself in dark moments, but he will always find the way to rise, because he takes responsibility for his own faith. Okay? And that's what is important. Now, it's faith and faith, both of them together. You have faith, then you control your faith. You don't have faith, you cannot control your faith. So why is that important? Because, as we said, the word nefilah, falling, goes together with a tzaddik, which means even a tzaddik, especially a tzaddik, is a person that falls. You know what? Dead people don't fall. They're buried. You know, the chances going to fall in your grave are not that great, not that big. But if you're alive, you have chances to fall, and probably 100% you will fall this way or another. Once, twice, 3, 4, 5. If you don't fall, you're not alive. So the whole question in this parasha is, you know, we came out of the high holidays, and you're facing the month of Cheshvan, Scorpio. And the month of Cheshvan is about falling. The stock market falls. Usually when it falls is in Cheshvan. I say it again every year. Not every year the stock market falls, but the big ones happened on the month of Cheshvan. 1929, 1987, 1983 in Israel. All the banking system and the stock market collapsed on that day, and so on. There were even 2008. It was in the month of Cheshvan when everything really collapsed. So, can we live a life that is secure from falling? The answer is, we really don't want to have that kind of a life. You don't fall, you don't learn. You don't fall, you don't build. You do not grow. You never find the greater power inside you if you don't experience falling. The question is like this: how do we create security? How do we have some kind of control over our life? This is the question that everybody is asking. The new year is starting and everybody is looking for something to hold on to because it's becoming wavy, floods are coming. You know, there's going to be always something that is going to break your a false perception of security. Why I'm saying false perception of reality, of security? Because that's we're human beings and we can't see the picture. You know, who could say that he can have a security that nothing bad will happen to them? You know, you have to be really crazy to believe in that. Okay? But this is what life is about. So the moment you assume that crisis is part of everyday life, so some people, they are being crushed by the crisis and then they have post-trauma and they suffer forever. And some people, they use crisis in order to grow. You're already going through pain, so what? Grow up. Okay, and you have to remember, the spiritual person is the person that learns how to grow from crisis. Okay? This is what Parashat Noah is basically about. How do we find it? So, because that's, again, the great question. How do I find security? If I walk all my life and make a lot of money and build very strong houses, okay, is that making my life secure? Does that mean that I'm not going to be hurt by a crisis like a plague? Here we thought there's no plagues anymore. How many experts in world history, in science, said we are beyond the big plagues. No more plagues. Forget it. We are beyond it. We're strong in it. Oops. Okay? We thought that history arrived to a place in which nations are already sane enough to secure most of humanity. Have you read the news lately? Governments are crazy. Leaders are crazy. Nations are crazy. You see people making all kinds of decisions that are so unrealistic that all sense of security is down the drain. Doesn't matter if you live in a superpower like America or in a very rich country like Luxembourg or something like this. It doesn't matter. Insecurity is all around us, socially, physically, health-wise, and politically. Nothing is secure anymore. We lived under a sense in the 50s and later on in the 80s and finally the 90s that we can secure our life. No, it's not going there, not yet. Why? Because people still have the tendency to corrupt. This is what this parasha is about. That's what we do the best. Humans, the moment you give them enough security, they'll find a way to corrupt the situation. Why? Because the moment you're born as a human being, you have the evil inclination with you. And the moment you're not acknowledging that part of your own state of mind and being, the moment you're not aware of it, and the moment you're not focused on working on that part of your personality, then you can go into all kinds of crazy ideas. Crazy ideas about, if we destroy all the bad guys, then the world will be safe. If we take all the Republicans to jail, the world will be safe. If we take all the Democrats to jail, if we take all the Nazis to jail, if you take the extreme right, the extreme left, or we take all the thieves to jail. Hello, we are all humans. All of us have evil inclination. Give us enough time and enough opportunities, and we are going to corrupt. Okay, remember that. And the moment you try to eliminate part of society, then the moment you agree to such a crazy, lunatic idea, then we experience what happened in the 20th century, killing hundreds of millions of people in the name of this crazy idea. Because the moment you are a human being, you're being created in the image of God. But the moment you replace that idea with another man-made idea, the result will be always terrible abuse of human rights. So there's no replacement for the Bible, no replacement. Any replacement that came after the Dark Ages was horrible, and we're still in the making of more horrible ideas. Now, so what is the secret of security? Here we have the story of Noah. You know what Noah means in Hebrew? Comfortable. Noah was comfortable. Was that comfortable to build an ark? To be different than everybody else? I don't think it was comfortable. Was it comfortable to have an idea, to harbor knowledge? You know that everybody's going to perish, and he cannot do anything about it. Is that comfortable? Spending so much time on building an ark, is that comfortable? Seeing the whole world perish, they being destroyed, and learning and knowing that the only one who survived, and you have to start all over again. Is that comfortable? Of course not. So what is the comfort zone? So we learn there's a connection. Noah was a tzaddik. The only comfort zone is mental. Do not expect a safe zone on the physical layer. Do not expect, because who can secure himself? Who can secure? The forces of politics, of human mistakes, of destruction all over the world? Cities were safe for decades. Now they're impossible to live in. How could that happen? We're talking about the US, we're talking about Europe, places it looked like, some crazy lunatic historians said it's the end of history. No more history. It's like from now on, everything is safe. Everything is quiet. We are soon going to live for centuries, and there's no more, we just can enjoy ourselves. Have we come to that era? No, forget it. And whoever is trying to get to that place, okay, you are ahead of you, there's some terrible disappointments. So what gave Noah the sense of comfort? He was a tzaddik. So what is the formula of a tzaddik? Because what the Zohar is saying, that the Torah is giving us the formula for real security. You cannot secure that the whole world is going to be safe physically, health-wise, and so on. But as a human being, first of all, you can create your own safe zone. And the question is, how do you create your own safe zone that you'll be comfortable in your safe zone? Now, can I secure, my property? I ask a question, very simple. How many of you have property, okay, that belonged to your great-grandfather? Very few people. Very few people. Which means, does that mean that our great-great-parents did not have any property? Many of us had great-grandparents that had a lot of property. But somehow it looks like, through human history, it doesn't stay. You can't secure it in the family. Okay, what about brains? What about, you understand what I'm saying? You cannot, so how do you get any sense of security that is really true security that will make you comfortable? So says the Zohar, we know that a tzaddik, I'll try to cover those parts of the Zohar that cover this issue. The Zohar says, verse 3 in the Zohar of Parashat Noah in the Sulam, Perush Sulam of Rabbi Ashlag on the Zohar. מכאן למדנו, we learned, שכל מי ששומר הברית, whoever observes the covenant, העולם מתקיים עליו נקרא צדיק. He not just is called a tzaddik, he is a guarantee that the world will not be destroyed. מאין לנו זה? How do we know that? מיוסף, we know it from Joseph. שבשביל ששמר ברית עולם, because he kept the covenant. How did Joseph keep the covenant? When he was taken to the bed of his master's wife, the wife of Potiphar, and what we know that he had the passion, the sexual passion to sleep with her. She had the passion. He was the most beautiful man that walked on earth on those days. She was the most beautiful woman, says the Midrash. They wanted each other physically. The last moment Joseph jumped out of bed and ran away, he knew he's risking his life. He still did it. Why? Because keeping the covenant was more important than his body desires. Okay? And usually keeping a covenant, honesty, righteousness is based on certain rules and values that keeping them means giving up immediate reward in this physical world, which means not to cheat on, in loyalty with, that could be sexually, that could be business-wise, that could be, friendship. It's all about being ethical and having values that are more important than the immediate physical reward. Okay? Joseph, that gave up a lot, he paid dearly, 12 years in jail. Okay? That's a lot. For what? For being honest with what? With the covenant that he learned from his father. His father was thousands of miles away. Okay? There was nobody there to check on Joseph to see that he's fulfilling the covenant. It was between him and God. The result was, after 12 years, he rose to a place in which he could have any woman he wanted, right? Any money he wanted, and he had. Okay? What are we talking about? We are talking about the formula. Yosef HaTzadik, Noach HaTzadik, both of them had something in common. Against the whole world that was into corruption, whoever knows what was the culture in Egypt, was very similar to the civilization that Noach was part of. Okay, very similar. Okay, no honesty, no sexual, whatever, how would we say, morality and honesty. Everything was there about how do I get my body fulfilled for the immediate reward. Okay? Joseph, who connected by having those values and ethics stronger than the physical desires of the body, he connected to that realm it's a realm that is called tzaddik. Again, wrongly translated as righteous. No, it's not righteous. Tzaddik is tzaddik. Tzaddik, yesod, olam. There's another word for tzaddik, yesod. Yesod is sephira. Sfirat yesod. Yesod means foundation, which means that tzaddik, that power is the foundation of the stability of the world and especially of your own world. You want some stability in your world, you need to stick to Sfirat Yesod. What does that mean? We'll see. Because Joseph was truthfully loyal to the values and the ethics that his father Jacob taught him, he did not go to bed with the wife of Potiphar. He knew, he was not stupid. He knew exactly how much he's going to pay when he's going to say no to her. She went wild because she prepared that for a long time. She made sure that nobody will be in the house. She got him into her bed and she planned the whole thing for a long time because she wanted him for a long time. The Torah says she was trying to do it for a while. Okay? And then he runs away from her. And because of that, he merited, says the Zohar, to become a tzaddik. It's not only the Zohar. And that's what it says. Now, so what does it mean? Sadra Rabbi Chia says, this is why it says Noach ish tzaddik. Likewise, like Joseph, Noach, many hundreds of years before Joseph, he also, the whole world was into, look, when people have no real universal values, they try anything they can in order to get themselves satisfied. Okay? So they invent all kinds of values in order to justify their behavior. The result will be, sooner or later, they are going to make everything allowed. Everything. Okay? And we see that happening in front of all of us around this planet. The result is terrible corruption. And when there is a corruption, then the world is starting to shake. The weather, we have it in the Torah. The weather, the economy, government, everything is shaky. Okay? Noach was Shomer Habrit. He observed the covenant. What kind of covenant? Some people had the wisdom that Adam received, and he passed it down the generations. Very few people could hold on to it. Noah had that wisdom, and he held on to it. But he was not just a minority, he was single in his generation. Everybody else who stuck to those values already passed away. He was alone against the whole of humanity. They perished, he survived. What's the message for us? We're coming to a time, the month of Cheshvan and the beginning of a new year, that we have those fears that are normal. How could I secure my life? You know, people can have anxiety attacks today because of health reasons, because of financial reasons, because of social reasons, because of political reasons. There's so many. You know what? If you're not hysterically afraid, consciously, ideologically, you are a fool. You don't see what's going on around you. The only security you have is the connection to the Creator, the connection to God. And that is the connection to that frequency that is called Tzaddik Yesod Olam. A righteous person is the foundation of the universe. Okay? And in that verse, we have the whole solution. How do we get a sense of security in a world that it looks like everything is falling apart? Whatever safe zones that people have created, you call it a modern state, you call it social security, you call it social democratic society with, the welfare state. It doesn't matter. You call it capitalism, you make enough money so you can secure yourself. Nothing is secure. Nothing is secure. Look around. For thousands of years, people built huge walls to create security. The Great Wall of China. The whole world is full of people that made fools of themselves by trying to make themselves secure. The whole planet is full of walls. Everywhere you have walls. So you create a wall between America, the US and Mexico. The government are being changed. And now not just there's no wall, it's like everybody's invited. The whole world is going to America. Same thing with Europe. Same thing everywhere. All those walls are fake. Okay? What happens? Because when the human spirit is corrupt, there's nothing that is secure anymore. And you realize that everything you thought is secure, and you were willing to put trillions of dollars worth in securing yourself, that's fake. So the real comfort zone, the true comfort zone, is the comfort zone of the tzaddik. Okay, so how do we create a comfort zone? The Zohar continues, verse 4 in the Zohar. Rabbi Elazar said, Ele bechol atar pasal et harishonim taneinan. The first word of the parasha, Ele toldot Noach. Ele, these are. Says Rabbi Elazar, when the word Ele, these are, Ele appears, pasal et harishonim. It's coming to replace what was before. Yeah, what was before, it doesn't worth it. And now there's something else that's going to replace it. All the generations before Noah, whatever they built, whatever security they achieved, financially, banking system, social security, big houses, whatever, everything fell apart, have been wiped from the face of the earth, and Noah and his children had to start again from nothing, from scratch. Okay, but then he says, Maktiv Leila, what does it say before in Parashat Bereshit? ונהר יוצא מעדן להשקות את הגן ומשם ייפרד והיה לארבעה ראשים. And a river came from Eden, and it has been divided into 4 different rivers. It's the story of the Garden of Eden. ההוא נהר דנגיד ונפיק, והיה לגינתה, והשקי למשק יודי לילה, ועבד לעינייך, ועבד איבין, ורבי זרעין, והוא כדי נייך לחולה, ודנייך לי לגינתה, ודאביק נייך בה, כמה דאמר, כי בו שבת, וכתיב וישבות ביום השביעי. ודע רזה דמילתא, דמילה, דע ותולדות ולאחרה. There's a big secret over here. He says, okay, so there's a story. It's a story. There was a river, came out from the Garden of Eden. Okay? And the Zohar says, the Garden of Eden, we're talking about the Sephirah of Chokhmah. What is the Sephirah of Chokhmah? We spoke about it many times. This is like the source of any flow of bliss. Wisdom, spiritual wisdom, sustenance, anything. Any positive energy. That's what Eden symbolizes. And that river goes into the garden. What is the garden? Sfirat Malchut. What is Sfirat Malchut? Our reality. Everybody has his own Sfirat Malchut. My reality is Sfirat Malchut. Okay? And of course, every person has his own reality because it's all connected to consciousness. What is my reality? Whatever I'm thinking about. Okay? Whatever I'm not thinking about has nothing to do with my reality. Okay? Some people have a reality that hell is heaven relatively to their reality. Because they have terrible perception of reality, of humanity, of destiny, of everything that, so they go around, the eternal victims, victimizers, evil, whatever. But it's a result of your own thinking. That's your reality. Okay? Now, when the river, says Rabbi Elazar, flows into the garden, it waters it from the essence of the above. And it gives him nachat ruach. Nachat ruach means Noach. Nachat ruach means a state of mind of bliss. Where can you get a state of mind of bliss? It's not a physical location on the face of the earth. It is a frequency that is called the river that flows from Eden and waters the garden. How do we achieve physically, practically, that state of mind of bliss, which is true bliss, true comfort? Not just that it has true comfort. Oseh peirot, you have physical results. Noah had 3 sons. All 3 survived, so the story tells us. Humanity came out of these 3 sons, which means we have fruits that bared more fruits and created the whole garden, which is humanity. What is a symbol? When a person can see the bliss, what does it mean? What is a bliss? Whatever you're doing, not just as perpetual existence, it bears fruits. You see results, positive results, and you see them growing. You know that you are connected to the river that flows from Eden and waters the garden. And that garden has fruits. והוא מביא נחת לנהר להיותו עושה את הפירות. קיבו שבת, כמו שכתוב, as it says, קיבו שבת. Because when it speaks about the day of the Shabbat, Shabbat is also the same letters as Kivo Shavat. Shavat, what is Shavat? Stop working. Why? He's resting. Why is he resting? He's comfortable. He's in a state of bliss. A person can think that he is keeping Shabbat. What does it mean? Since sundown of Friday afternoon, he's not working. He doesn't call on the phone. He doesn't read newspapers. He's not dealing with politics. He's just resting. Correct? He's praying. He's really keeping Shabbat. But his mind is crazy. He's hysterically crazy. He's full of fears, anxieties about his family, about this, about that. That's not Shabbat. Shabbat is a state of rest. What does it mean, a state of rest? When you connect to the river that waters the garden. How do you see that? You see that the person has nachat. Nachat means he's in a state of bliss. Yeah, but 6 days, horrible 6 days. Now it's Shabbat. How can I rest? How can I just let go of that? This is the magic of Shabbat. The magic of Shabbat, that it's not the seventh day. It is Shabbat. There is a connection between the river and the garden in Shabbat. Now, you can't feel that you're not observing Shabbat. You did not connect to the proper frequency. So, if you're working, being a spiritual human being during the weekdays, you'll be able to connect to Shabbat on the seventh day. But there, what the Zohar is saying, if you understand that, you can understand what does it mean to connect to that frequency during the 6 days also, which means things happen and crazy things happen. Nobody has a life that is free of all kinds of fears, anxieties, and discomfort. That's a given. The question is, how do we secure ourselves? Physically, can we secure ourselves? No guarantee. But what's important, as long as I'm mentally secured, spiritually and mentally, then I'll be able to, go through all of those floods and crises around and be able to survive them and even to overcome, not just overcome, take an advantage and come out of them all the time bigger. Noah did it. Joseph did it. Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob did it. The whole of book of Bereshit, Genesis, is about people that learned that if you are connected to that state of mind of the garden being watered by the river, you will be able to turn any garbage into gold, any crisis into a victory, into a gain. This is the major secret of life that we have to commit for the rest of the year, because that's a base ground. If you're committing to that, you're being called Shomer Habrit, the observant of the covenant. What does it mean? Having that commitment that those rules, those values of the Torah are so eternal, there's no way you can break them just for physical gain, as I said before. Okay, now, verse 5. Bore, come and see. Kain ze Noach lemata. The same way, Noach, in the physical world, Haya Brit Kodesh. He was the holy covenant, the holy Brit. K'mo Yesod shel Mala. Because he was holy. Why he was holy? Because he committed himself to those values. Okay? ולפיכך נקרא איש האדמה. That's why the Torah calls him איש האדמה, the man of the land, the man of the earth. כי אדמה היא מלכות, because אדמה, earth, land, is מלכות. והיסוד הוא אישה של מלכות. And ספירת יסוד is the husband of מלכות. What is that? What does that mean in common words? Isha Adama means this physical world, which means how can we command physical reality to give us bliss, to give us security, to give us a situation in which no matter how terrible things turn to become in any, We're talking about objective realities, financial, physical, social, political, family, instability. The moment the person has that commitment to the values and he doesn't feel sacrificing, he's simply connecting to the river, Sfirat Yesod, to the river, which is, in other way, the tree of life. The tree, how does a tree looks like? Like a river. All of those, when you really connect to the spiritual realm by having commitment to those values in everything you do, sooner or later, it can take years. When you commit enough, you start to see that you can command reality, Sfirat Malchut, the earth. Things finally turn to be under your control. Not always, not 100%, but you start to see there's a reward, which means a state of mind of spiritual stability and commitment will result with the fruits of reality that maybe that reality is not the way I was imagining 20 years ago, 30 years ago, whatever, when I was young. But it has more and more connection to that state of bliss, Noah. So, and by the way, a lot of people, they have complaints. For years I'm praying to God, give me this, give me it. God is not the tooth fairy. Okay. You ask and you don't get what you want. The fact, says Rabbi Ashlag, that you pray to God, if you really pray to God, you are more connected to the light of God. The more you pray to God, you're more connected to the tree of life or to the river. The more you're connected to the river, you start to realize that when the state of bliss is becoming part of your life, the physical results are not as you imagine with your physical limited logic and brain, but it's usually much better. Joseph had a dream to be a king. You know how small little kings lived in that time in the Middle East? Every little town had a king. But did he imagine that he's going to be the king of Egypt? De facto. Basically, he was the king of Egypt, the biggest superpower of the world of that time. I don't think he thought that he dared to think that it's going to be that great. But that's what happened. Which means he got much more than he bargained for. So, because he was a tzaddik, because he didn't argue with God, which means he didn't pray, God, how could you make me a slave in Egypt? I thought I'm going to be a king. Said, if I'm a slave, that's probably where I should go through in order to become a king. What kind of a king? I don't know. So that when the moment you connect to that river, to that flow, usually you get much more than you bargained for. So don't come to the Creator with your petty request. You want to connect to that river that is called Yesod, Tzaddik Yesod Olam. That's what you want. You want to be part of that. You want to bring bliss to everyone around you, physically. That could be at work, family, and society, community, because that's what Yesod is about. That's what you're committed for. What are going to be the results? Do not limit. How many kids, we're expecting kids 20 years old, 22 years old, 24 years old. You should already know what you're going to be. How much brains do you have as a kid? How much do you really know yourself and your potential? Today, it takes a longer time for people to realize their potential. Did Most of the great people in the history of humanity, did they know when they were 20 that they are going to reach a place of leadership? Like, very few of them. Some of them did, but most people don't. You just connect to the river, and you start to feed the garden, and you start to bring benefit and bliss to the world around you. Then the Creator takes you to the place in which you bring the most benefit to the world. So, when it says, so let's continue. בנוח כתוב בו ברית. It says ברית, covenant with Noah. שכתוב והקימותי את בריתי איתך. And God says, and I establish the brit, the covenant with you. Okay? Why? Why God chose Noah and not somebody else? Noah was the only one who created that frequency. He was the only one who could communicate with the light of the Creator on that level. But he needed a teiva, an ark. Okay, what's the ark? Malchut, the earth, the land. Again, what the Torah is talking about, there is a state of mind, but it has to be practical. It has to be seen. Should be fruits coming out of it. The whole thing of Noah and the ark. And later on we have Joseph. And Joseph was also he was put in a coffin. But you have to remember, in Hebrew, it's Aaron. Aaron Habrit, the ark of the Brit, the covenant. It's like those words repeat themselves again and again. Now, how do we see that happening? When we spoke about the creation of the world in Parashat Bereshit, whoever learned, we spoke about a very peculiar verse in Genesis chapter 2, verse 5. וכל שיח השדה טרם יהיה בארץ, וכל עשב השדה טרם יצמח, כי לא המטיר השם אלוקים על הארץ, ואדם אין לעבוד את האדמה. After the story of the 7 days of creation, everything was created. Everything was there. And then comes the Torah, Genesis 2:5, and says, before there were humans, before Adam was created and started to work the ground, the earth, again the word earth, there was not even a bush and not even grass. Doesn't speak about trees. Who cares about bushes? But the word bush in Hebrew, siach, the word over here, siach has double meaning. It means also speech. And we know that God gave Adam a job to give names to everything. And we know that the moment, if we speak about modern science, quantum physics, if a tree fell into a forest and there was nobody there, did it make a sound? And our logic says, of course it did. And quantum physics says, logic has nothing to do with reality. Nothing. Didn't make. Can you prove it? But it's not just a game, a philosophical game. Before there was a human brain that can see, speak, and give names and describe reality, there was nothing. Nothing physical. They were in suspended animation, as the scientists are saying. Reality depends on speech in order to manifest itself. Says Rabbi Isaac Luria, these are the generations of Noah. And what does it say? He was tzaddik. What does it mean, tzaddik? Then the next verse, Shem, Cham, v'Yefet, his sons, Shem, Cham, and Yefet. Says Rabbi Isaac Luria, what are the initials of Shem, Cham, and Yefet? Siach, the same word exactly. Siach. What does that mean? He didn't have 3 sons? Well, could be he had 3 sons. Could be their names was Shem, Cham, and Yefet. But it was not by coincidence. One of the major definitions of a tzaddik is the ability to watch your mouth. Watching your mouth It's like watching your sexual desires. It's the same level. This is yesod. The mouth is the level of yesod in the head level, and the sexual organs in the body levels. The moment the person speaks according to the covenant with a commitment to honesty, loyalty, and love others as love yourself, and the rules and the values of the Torah, the moment a person has total commitment for that, the world around him will change according to the way they speak. Because the way you speak, it's also the way you think. The way you think is the way you speak. The way you think and the way you speak creates the reality that you're part of. Okay? And if you speak by being aware that every word that comes out of your mouth, you're bringing light from the world above. You're bringing spirituality from the world above. And no words can be said. I just said stam. Just because who cares what I said? That is a source, Rabbi Ashlag is saying, of all the worst corruption in our lives. When you watch your mouth, that's a covenant. Brit Milah in Hebrew means circumcision. It means a covenant. Milah means circumcision, but Milah means also the word. When you have a covenant with your words, and your words represent your covenant with God, your reality slowly will start to change. You cannot just curse people, speak horrible about people, speak horrible about yourself, and expect the river to flow and water your garden. Doesn't work. If whenever you speak with a consciousness that words can kill, words can heal. You speak like this to people, you speak like this with God. That's your life, and you have an awareness every time you speak, and there's a worth to the words. You will see the reality. Okay? Shem Cham V'Yefet, says Rabbi as a Gloria, that's another code. Noah was watching his speech. He knew the power of the words. And later on, in the next parasha, Avraham Avinu, he's fighting 5 kings with 318 men. That's nothing. Rashi says, no, it was only Eliezer, because 318 is Eliezer. 318 is siach, speech. You can win all the wars of the world just by speaking in a positive spiritual manner. If you cannot bring any positive value to the world, do not speak what you're going to speak. Better to be silent. We can talk a lot about that stuff, but to complete that is the story in the end. The story of the Tower of Babylon, which completes that. And the story is, there were people that wanted to rebel against God, and there's a very, very amazing story in the Zohar about it. What does it really mean? And the Zohar says in the end of Parashat Noah something so overwhelming that we should never ever forget it. It says, what does it say? It says, and the earth was, as we said, one language, one speech. Chapter 11 in Genesis, verse 1. Everybody spoke the same language. They used their language to control the angels. They wanted to control the angels in order to achieve what? A universe secure from any calamities. So they realized, if you watch your mouth, you can secure. But they said, what if we made a mistake? We want to rebel. We don't want to change. Does it remind you? We don't want to change. We want to create a system that will secure that nothing will fall apart. We'll always be healthy in our children. Our secure system will always be complete and stable, and nothing, no bad surprises. But they didn't want to commit. They didn't want to commit to their own spiritual change, which means I know I'm not complete, so I have to complete myself. No, they didn't want. They want to have bliss without committing. If I fall, I'll rise. I won't blame anyone. The result was, and says the Zohar, they lost the connection to the Hebrew language. They were split into 70 languages, that each one of them split into many other languages. Okay? And the Zohar says, and listen to these eternal words. Verse 385 in the Zohar Perush HaSulam. ראה מה שכתוב אין עם אחד ושפה אחת לכולם. See, it says one nation, one language to all of them. ומשום שהם בלב אחד ורצון אחד, and since they are all in one heart, one desire, and ומדברים בלשון הקודש, and they speak their holy language, Hebrew. על כן, says God, ועתה לא ייבצר מהם כל אשר יזמו לעשות. Nothing can stop what they want to do. So what happened? I don't want to go into the things. They used Hebrew, which is the language of the creation, the language that helps us to transcend ourselves and transform ourselves and to bring light from the up to down, okay? They try to use it for the opposite, to secure themselves so no pain, but no pain, no gain. So Hebrew is about transformation. And when they fought against transformation, they fought against Hebrew, and that's how they lost it. But what is the result? Says the Zohar. The next verse, 386. ומשום שהיו ברצון אחד ולב אחד, since they were in one heart and one desire, ודיברו בלשון הקודש, okay, nothing could stop them. That's a power of unity. אנו, או החברים שעוסקים בתורה, but if we are united, if we are learning Torah, and especially the Zohar, because in so many places it says that today's Noah's Ark is the study of the Zohar. That can bring us to that frame of reference, to that frequency, to that awareness that we are, wherever we go, we create Noah's Ark around us. With all the calamities and all the upheavals around us, and they're getting bigger and bigger. When we are in one heart and one desire, על אחת כמה וכמה שלא ייבצר ממנו מה שנרצה לעשות. Of course that we can achieve anything we want. If you just have unity, you can achieve anything. And if you have unity with the right consciousness of the covenant, you can achieve anything. So why we see groups around that didn't achieve control over the world, they're not united. So simple. מכאן נשמע, verse 387. אמר רבי יוסי says, from here we learn, שכל אלו בעלי מחלוקת אין להם קיום. Any group of people that are so busy arguing, not for the sake of finding the truth, for ego, they are just into dispute. That's a state of mind of dispute. They have no existence. What does it mean? Sooner or later, they're going to fall apart and be dispersed. הרי כל זמן שבני העולם הם אלו עם אלו ברצון אחד, as long as the people of the world are united with each other, with one heart and one desire, אף על פי שמורדים בקדוש ברוך הוא, let's say they even rebel against the Creator, לא שלט בהם דין העליון. The upper judgment cannot control them. So they lost their language. They were separated. They were dispersed. They didn't die from a plague. There were no wars, no calamities, no earthquakes. They just stopped understanding each other, so each one went on his own. Why? Because they were united. What a secret. So, if we not just we are united, but we're united in a true way to connect to the bliss of the river and the garden. אמר רבי חייא, משמע שהכל תלוי בדברי הפה. We know that everything depends on the mouth. כיוון שנתבלבל שפתם, as their language has been confused, מיד ויפץ אותם משם. God spread them all over the place, all over the world. אבל לעתיד לבוא, but in the future world to come, מה כתוב? כי אז זה יהפוך אל עמים שפה ברורה. Then God says, I'll speak to all the nations in one clear language. Everyone will understand Hebrew. לקרוא כולם בשם השם לעובדו שכם אחד. Everybody will call the name of God and work together in unity for the same values to connect to God. Then we'll see peace on earth to everyone. Thank you so much.